In this video, we will be learning about how to solve a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula, and we will actually be showing you a couple examples of this in the real world. One of the first things we should know about a quadratic equation is that it looks like a big U, which is called a parabola. So this here is a basic quadratic equation, which is y equals x squared. And which we're going to be using is the exponent of 2 to figure out that we have two answers to our quadratic equation when we go to solve for x. Here is a real-world example of where you might see a quadratic equation in your everyday life. As you can see, as the ball leaves his hand, it makes a U shape going right through the ball. Here is another real-world example of the quadratic equation used in the real world. As you can see, as each person releases the ball, it's got the U shape with a high point where it starts, where the increasing turns into decreasing. Alright, so the equation we'll be looking at is 2x squared plus 11x plus 3. Now, there's a couple things we need to notice right away in this equation. First off, we need to notice that this is an exponent of 2, which means we will have two answers, at least two answers at the most. It could be 1 due to multiplicities and whatnot, but we need to have at least two answers for this equation. Another thing we need to notice is that this equation does not factor. So if we try to factor this, we know that the factors of this this coefficient is 2 and 1. So we have that, and we know that the coefficients of, or the factors of 3 are 3 and 1. And we can see that there's no way for us to get 11 in the middle, even if we switch these two numbers. So therefore, we know this cannot factor, which means we have to use the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula states that x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, with the 2 being the a, the 11 being the b, and the 3 being the c. Here is the quadratic formula. This is very useful to use when you find out that your quadratic, where your polynomial or quadratic does not factor into two factors. When it doesn't factor, this is what we need to use to find our x's. So the b term is your x term, the a term is your x squared term, and the c is just your constant. A good way to remember this is by a song that goes like this. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. My high school teacher taught me this in high school, and I've remembered it ever since, so that's a great way to remember the quadratic formula, because you will need this a lot in the rest of your math classes. Alright, so since we know that this doesn't factor, we need to plug it in to the quadratic formula to find what our x equals. So the first thing we need to do is just simply plug these a, b, and c into this equation. So we'll get x equals negative 11 plus or minus square root of 11 squared minus 4 times 2 times 3 all over 2 times 2. So now all we need to do is simplify this, and with the plus and minus we know that we've got our two answers that we need with our exponent up here. So we get x equals negative 11 plus or minus square root of 121 minus 24 all over 4. So simplify this again, and we get negative 11 plus or minus square root of 97 all over 4. So these are our two answers. You can put them into decimal form if you want, but I would suggest just leave them like this. And we know we got our two answers by the plus and the minus here.